It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, if you look at that gigantic, sharp, interactive board, you're going to see some familiar logos. Above those logos, I'm asking the question, what do they teach each other? You know, Visual Edge IT appointed a new CEO. The gentleman took the reins on July 7th. What could that new CEO learn from our friends at Marco? What could they learn from DEX Imaging? When I think about DEX Imaging and its relationship with Gamut Capital, that's the newest investment. DEX Imaging left Staples in February of 2023. It's been about 18 months. Definitely the newest investment. When I think about Marco and the relationship with Norwest Equity Partners, that's the oldest investment, right? I don't think there's anything older than that, right? I don't think Norwest Equity Partners ever thought they would still own Marco in the year 2025. What could they teach this new leader at Visual Edge IT? Because, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we remember DEX Imaging, right? We're never going to get into IT, never, 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 and all of a sudden we're in IT. I always say never, right? When they got into IT, they started this DEX Tech. They appointed a president to run DEX Tech. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you've seen a couple of my episodes on that, right? One of the episodes, I explained why they got into IT, right? And then I read an interview that the leader of DEX Tech put out there in ENX Magazine and in the Canada Report, and I was horrified by what I read. And I said, okay, I don't have any confidence in this, probably not going to last long. And some people probably thought I was mean, oh, Ray's mean, Mr. Negative, blah, blah, blah. Well, he didn't last very long. He lasted about 8 months. As a matter of fact, when the gentleman left, he actually scraped DEX Imaging off his LinkedIn profile. What could DEX Imaging teach this new CEO of Visual Edge IT? What could DEX teach him? Hey, you got a big old giant copier business. You want to do IT on it? You know, we tried that. Here's what happened the first 8 months. Here's how we're doing it now. Ladies and gentlemen, I think there's some valuable lessons. I think about Marco, you know, they've been an IT longer than anybody, right? But Marco's still in the hands of Norwest Equity Partners. What's the exit strategy? I mean, even if you do it well. What's the exit strategy? Because we haven't really seen any exit strategy of mega dealers backed by private equity having some big exit, right? Where's the proof it even works? So what can these folks teach the new CEO at Visual Edge IT as he takes the helm? You know, ladies and gentlemen, we've probably all seen the press release and all the nonsense out there about this. And I say that because I don't even care who writes this stuff anymore for our industry, because they all do the same thing. They just copy and paste stuff. They don't put any kind of input, no editorial, no questions, no nothing. The stuff in red is me thinking. But folks, I'm reading this, Visual Edge, great company, blah, blah, blah. Let me just read this paragraph in here. It has been an incredible honor to lead Visual Edge IT for more than 31 years, said Van Cherry, their old CEO. Our team has built a resilient and innovative organization that now spans more than 70 markets across the U.S. And with James' experience and leadership, I'm confident Visual Edge is well positioned to be a leader in the next era of industry growth and technology innovation. Really. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I think humility has to go both ways. And I get it. You know, first of all, and this is just my belief, and if I'm wrong, you know, put it in the comments, but I really believe that the CEO, the exiting CEO of Visual Edge IT, did not make the decision to replace himself. I believe that decision was probably made by Ares Capital. And I believe they should have made that decision. I believe they should have made that decision in the third quarter of 2023 when they wrote off that senior subordinate loan that has sat in nonaccrual for over a year. That's when they should have made the decision, but they didn't. But at the end of the day, when I'm reading this, and I'm reading about how the exiting CEO is going to be sitting on the board as the chair, and it's going to drive strategy and vision, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? You know, ladies and gentlemen, if Visual Edge IT was a publicly traded company, and we got to see all the Visual Edge IT numbers and all their books. Right now, their lender, Ares Capital, the BDC lender, is a publicly traded company, and we can see how the relationship with the investment in Ares Capital goes on the 10Qs and 10Ks of Ares Capital. But we have no access to Visual Edge's actual financials. But could you imagine if we could? Could you imagine every quarter that the exiting CEO of Visual Edge IT had to share with the whole entire investment community what was going on at that company? Is the revenue growing? Is the revenue falling? How many customers do we have? How many customers are we losing? Can you imagine? Because I can imagine there's a lot of things going on at Visual Edge IT that caused it not to be able to support its relationship with its loan at Ares Capital, right? Otherwise, Ares Capital wouldn't have to write off the loan. So if that was the case, wouldn't Wall Street demand this person leave? Seriously. I mean, folks, I get it. We don't want to think this way in our industry. We got to build walls around anything that's uncomfortable to talk about. Oh, we can't talk about that. But we need to talk about these things. And folks, I get it. You know, things go bad. No big deal. But we got to be honest about it, don't we? Because when I think about the exiting CEO talking about how it's positioned, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I heard a rumor out there that he actually said the company was stable and growing. I mean, if that's true, that's fantastic. But if it's not true, doesn't that make everybody that worked there believe everything about the past is a lie? I mean, how do you build trust? And folks, I mean, if this company was a publicly traded company, I think about a Boeing. You know, Boeing's had a lot of issues. Their CEO had to face up to all the damn issues. He's getting beat up every day. The press is beating him up every day. He's got to be held accountable, answer questions. But in our industry, none of that exists because we want to put up walls around everything. Keep everybody really comfortable. Hey, as long as everybody's comfortable, we can all just sing Kumbaya. What can the new CEO of Visual Edge IT learn from some of the disasters in the industry? How will he address the employees of this company? I'm really looking forward to seeing this stuff, folks. I'm looking forward to seeing his migration, right? What's he going to do? How's this journey going to look? You know, what's the end game? I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm hoping this new leader's bringing in a team. He's got to be bringing in a team, right? When's the team showing up? You know, because obviously you can't, you know, take a company that's obviously been struggling pretty bad financially and all of a sudden turn it around. Everything's going to be great with the same people. Something's got to change there, right? So what are we going to see this gentleman do? And I'll tell you, what I hope, he's honest. What I hope is he shares the truth no matter how painful it is to the people that work there. What I hope, he has a plan. What I hope is his plan doesn't emulate a lot of the plans in our industry around taking a mega deal or print company and turn it into an IT services company, run around selling low-end contracts, not having the ability to sell assessments, doing all the things that I believe are completely dysfunctional in IT because there's never been a proof that it works. And the folks that I see that are doing it well are moving upstream. They have the ability to sell assessments. They're selling their intellect. They understand that it's not about selling every single customer IT. It's about finding the right customer profile and selling the IT to the right customer. We'll see what he says. We'll see what he does. We'll see what his actions are. Because, you know, folks, in July of 29 of 2025, what, a week away, a couple of weeks away, Ares Capital will publish their second quarter 10Q. I cannot wait to go look at that. I'm curious what's going to happen. We know that in the first quarter, when the first quarter ended, they were showing on the 10Q that they had a loan with Visual Edge with a fair value of $33.6 million. That loan is in payment in kind, and that loan has a maturity date of 12 of 2025. So at the end of December, they got to do something with this loan, right? What are they going to do with it? You know, if we look on the 10Q for the second quarter and we see the loan in nonaccrual, what is that going to tell us? Going to kick the can down the road a little bit more? Ladies and gentlemen, is this new CEO going to need new money from Ares Capital? And is Ares Capital going to give them new money? And if they are going to give them new money, what are they going to base it on? You know, I mean, there's a lot of questions, right? This isn't like some upstart. This has got a history. It's got a history of more than a few years, right? And the history hasn't been very good. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the end game? Because the answer determines the path. And when I think about the new CEO taking over at Visual Edge IT, when I think about anybody, I think about the leaders at DEX Imaging, I think about the leaders at Marco or any of these mega deal or private roll-ups, there's an end game. And whatever that end game is, that's going to determine the path toward the end. And there's a couple of end games. I mean, one of them is hold and grow. Let's buy this entity. Let's invest in it. We're going to hold it. We're going to grow it. We're just going to pull dividends out of it. They're going to pay all their loans off, and it's going to be great. We're going to get interest, and everybody's going to sing Kumbaya. That's one strategy. Another strategy is, hey, let's sell this to a new PE firm. Is that what Ares is thinking? Hey, let's bring in this person, clean this thing up, fix it a little bit. We'll wipe out all their loans so we just walk away from this thing, and maybe another PE firm will take it over. I mean, that's a strategy, right? If that's the strategy, then the journey toward that strategy is going to look a little bit different than a hold and grow strategy, if you will. Or ring the bell. We're going to do the ring and the bell, the IPO. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody that's running one of our mega dealers that's owned by private equity, and they tell you they can't wait to ring the bell on Wall Street, they instantly lose credibility. I think that's the most absurd, stupid thing I could ever hear. Seriously. It's never going to happen, okay? Seriously? Do you honestly believe you're going to put a bunch of investors on Wall Street and they're going to ring the bell and cheer and buy stock in a print company? Because until these companies become a really full-blown IT services company that's doing really well with an EBITDA, that isn't dysfunctional, no one's going to invest in a roll-up of copier businesses, ladies and gentlemen. That's just completely insane to even think. I mean, isn't it? I mean, folks, we're not even seeing the roll-ups of IT on the market. Right? Seriously. We've seen some folks in the IT sector like Datto. They went to the market, rang the bell, and then they went right back off the market, right? So where's the home run? Where's the story about building up a nationwide IT services company, going to Wall Street and ringing the bell? And then, of course, another strategy, another end game could be to sell off the assets and eliminate the business altogether in a liquidation. And folks, you know, I mean, sometimes that is not a bad strategy. Sometimes that's facing a reality. And that's going to have a different path. So I don't know what path the new CEO at Visual Edge IT is going to take, but I do hope that he talks to our friends at Marco, that he talks to our friends at DEX Imaging, and I'd be more than happy to talk to him myself. Because, ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that will be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.